Have you ever experienced a complete shift in your life in just one evening? I certainly have. Everything changed when my girlfriend of 5 years, Vanessa, introduced me as her roommate at her work party. When I confronted her about it, she callously claimed that I was fortunate she even kept me around. Without a word, I silently agreed, apologized, and made my decision. The next day, while Vanessa was at work, I quietly moved out, leaving a note that sarcastically wished her luck paying rent without her roommate. Since then, she has been trying to contact me incessantly. But before we dive into the details, I want to express my gratitude for your presence here. It truly means a great deal to me. It's important to note that only 8% of viewers are currently subscribed. If you appreciate these stories and would like to see more, a simple click can have a significant impact. Let me provide you with some context. I'm Noah, a 38-year-old marketing director at a mid-sized firm in Vanessa. Now my ex-girlfriend is a 36-year-old pharmaceutical sales executive. Our paths first crossed at a charity golf tournament, and within a year, we had already decided to move in together. Dee and I built what I believed was a strong relationship. Although we weren't married, we had conversations about it, picked out names for future children, and shared many aspects of our lives. However, around 6 months ago, things changed when Vanessa received a significant promotion to Regional Director of Sales. This new role came with an impressive title, a substantial pay increase, and required her to travel frequently for conferences and meetings. I fully supported her, took on more household responsibilities, adjusted my schedule to accommodate her, and even assisted with her work when she needed help with presentations under tight deadlines. Reflecting on that time, I noticed subtle shifts in our relationship. She began mentioning her colleagues without suggesting that I lead them, removed our pictures from her social media, started dressing and styling herself differently, and made comments suggesting that her new professional image and lifestyle were beyond my comprehension, despite my own executive position. Vanessa's company announced their annual gala, black tie, welcoming spouses and significant others. Initially, Vanessa had informed me that the event was for employees only. The truth came to light when I overheard her on a call discussing her colleagues' spouses and what they would be wearing. Upon confronting her, she claimed she was only looking out for me to spare me from a potentially dull evening. After some discussion, she agreed to let me attend. In anticipation of the event, I purchased a new suit, an elegant Armani tailored suit that cost $3,000, aimed to dress appropriately for a special occasion. As the evening of the gala approached, Vanessa appeared stunning in a black designer dress I had never seen her wear before. The event took place at an upscale downtown hotel with an open bar and gourmet catering. I found myself genuinely enjoying the evening, mainly with other guests while Vanessa socialized. It was during one of these interactions that her division VP approached us, extending his hand towards me and assuming I was Vanessa's roommate. I expected Vanessa to correct him, but she remained silent. "We've been together for 5 years?" I'd expect her to say, or, "This is my boyfriend, Noah." Instead, she nodded yes. Noah and I share an apartment downtown. It's so convenient for commuting. The VP made small talk for another minute before moving on. I stood there, champagne glass frozen halfway to my lips, trying to process what had just happened. "I'm late?" I whispered once we were alone. She shrugged. "Don't make a scene. Graham is a traditional guy. He values family and thinks workplace relationships are unprofessional." "We don't work together," I pointed out. "And since when is having a committed relationship unprofessional?" "You don't understand corporate politics," she hissed. Then she plastered on a smile as another executive approached. For the next 2 hours, I was introduced as her roommate or simply Noah to at least a dozen people. Each time, a little more of my patience chipped away. By the time we got home, I was seething but determined to have a rational conversation. "What was that about?" I asked. "He kicked off her heels in our entryway. After 5 years together, now I'm just your roommate." She let out a dramatic sigh, treating me as if I were incapable of understanding a simple concept. "It's not personal, it's professional," she stated firmly. "My relationship status has no bearing on my career. It's irrelevant." I reminded her that she had invited me to a partner's event. "Well, you were the one who kept insisting," she replied coolly, pouring herself a glass of wine without offering me a sip. "Honestly, you should consider yourself lucky that I still keep you around." I felt the pain of hurt, unsure if I had missed something. "Let's face it, Noah," she continued condescendingly. "I'm on track to reach senior leadership in 2 years. My career is taking off, whereas you—" She gestured vaguely in my direction. "You're comfortable?" I interjected, reminding her of my position as a director and my six-figure salary. She rolled her eyes dismissively. Your company has what? 50 employees? Mine has 20,000. You're a big fish in a small pond. With a sip of her wine, she added, admit it, you're fortunate that I stuck with you. Most women in my position would have upgraded by now. Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. She delivered a harsh blow, reducing my 5-year investment to charity. She was generous yet firm, faced with two options, to argue my worth or to acknowledge her perspective. I chose the latter. You're right, I conceded quietly. I haven't properly appreciated your achievements. I apologize. My swift surrender caught her off guard. Her expression shifted from disdain to confusion and finally to satisfaction. Well, I'm glad you see things differently now, she responded. I understand now, I assured her. It won't be a problem moving forward. She seemed content with my response. That night, we retired to bed without further conversation, but with an unspoken distance between us. The next morning, she left early for a breakfast meeting, adorned in the diamond earrings I had gifted her for our 4th anniversary. As soon as her car departed, I initiated the plan I had devised during my restless night. Firstly, I documented everything in our apartment, focusing on items I had purchased and our shared lease agreement, which was in both our names but for which I had made the payments. I deposited the e-security provided bank statements that detailed my contributions to our joint expenses, including showing screenshots of my monthly transfers to our shared account, which covered 70% of our rent and utilities due to my well-paying job. I then took action by contacting my bank, lawyer, and boss to set everything in motion by noon. Afterward, I packed efficiently and strategically, taking only items that were clearly mine, such as clothing, personal belongings, and family heirlooms. I left behind anything we had purchased together or that could be considered a gift to my ex. I had arranged for a moving company the night before, contacting them while my ex was asleep to explain my situation simply. Need to move out while my ex is at work tomorrow. The movers, who were familiar with such situations, arrived promptly at 1:00 p.m. as scheduled. By 3 p.m., the apartment was halfway empty, with my home office and living room furniture from my previous apartment gone. The costly entertainment system, gone. The original artwork I had collected, gone. Even the fridge and washer/dryer combo I had bought when we first moved in, gone. What remained was a partially furnished apartment, with noticeable gaps akin to missing teeth in a smile. I left behind her bed. She could hold on to that memory. The kitchen table she had chosen, her clothing, naturally, the decorative pieces she had curated. I penned a simple note and placed it on the kitchen counter. Good luck with rent, roommate. I've taken care of my half until the end of the month. However, here's where the tale shifts. I did just move out. I moved forward with a strategy in mind. Remember when I mentioned making calls to my bank, lawyer, and boss? Here's the deal. Call one involved untangling our finances, not only closing joint accounts, but kickstarting a comprehensive financial review of our relationship. Every shared expense, every trip, every gift meticulously detailed and evaluated. Call two entailed examining our legal commitments. Though we were not married, we had joint investments in their shared ownership of a vacation property, a legal entanglement necessitating careful untangling, and my decision to contact 3 people to expedite my career contingency 6 months ahead. I had previously turned down a lucrative job offer in Chicago due to Vanessa's job location. Now, I reached out to inquire if the opportunity was still available. Little did I know, Vanessa had been leading a double life beyond simply referring to me as her roommate. At a work function later that day, while checking into a hotel, I received an unexpected call from an unknown number. It turned out to be Graham, Vanessa's VP, who awkwardly questioned our relationship status. Surprised by his inquiry and puzzled by how he got my number, I asked about his source. Graham revealed that I had given him my business card at a gala, suggesting to contact me for marketing consultation if needed. He had kept it, as something about me had seemed questionable to him. Our situation. I confirmed that Vanessa and I had just broken up. There was a long pause. I thought, so look, there's something you should know. The reason I called you, her roommate, last night is because that's how she's been describing you for months. But she's also been seeing someone else, Charles from legal. They've been quite open about it at work events you weren't at. The floor seemed to drop from under me. How open? PDA at the last corporate retreat, sharing rules on business trips. Everyone assumed you two had some kind of arrangement. I thanked him for his honesty and ended the call, my hands shaking. Not just a roommate, but a convenient cover for her affair. This revelation changed everything. My measured response now felt inadequate. The carefully calculated exit seemed too gentle for the deception I'd endured. So, I initiated phase two, what I now recognize as going nuclear. Within 48 hours, I had withdrawn my portion of our shared vacation property investment, forcing a sale at a terrible time. In the market, too, I informed our landlord that I would not be renewing the lease, which was set to expire in 60 days. I made it clear that I would not be entering into any future agreements. Following this three, I declined a counter offer from my former company's HR department, citing personal reasons for relocating. I vaguely referenced the difficulties caused by my significant other's relationship with someone at her company. Without naming names, I left subtle clues. 4. I shared a social media update announcing my upcoming career move to Chicago, ensuring Vanessa would see it by tagging mutual friends. 5. I confided in my cousin, who works in a different division at the same pharmaceutical company, knowing that office gossip would spread quickly. That evening, Vanessa began calling me frantically, questioning my sudden departure and expressing concern over my decision to move out over a single comment. Rent is due next week, and Simone from accounting is asking me about Charles. I ignored all her questions until I received a text confirming that I had met my target. Apparently, an investigation is underway regarding possible workplace relationship violations involving me and Charles. I remained silent as the situation unfolded. Eventually, Simone's tone changed as she reached out, apologizing and acknowledging that I was more than just a roommate to her. Despite her pleas, I chose not to respond. As the week went on, I secured a new job in Chicago, found a lakefront apartment, and began preparations for my move. However, I later learned from mutual friends that Vanessa had been placed on administrative leave due to the investigation. It seemed Charles had shifted blame to her by claiming she pursued him aggressively, damaging her professional reputation in the process. The cabin we had purchased together was sold at a loss, with Vanessa bearing the brunt of the financial consequences due to the situation. A wall penalty. The landlord had already listed our apartment for new tenants, meaning she'd need to find a new place quickly. With damaged credit from our joint accounts, I closed 2 weeks after the gala. As I was packing my car for Chicago, Vanessa showed up at the hotel. The composed executive was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Eyes red, hair unkempt. I wasn't surprised to see her. My hotel wasn't a secret. I'd used our joint credit card to book it initially before switching to my personal card, knowing she'd see the transaction in the statement. Part of me had been expecting this confrontation, though I wasn't sure if she'd actually show up. Was this all because I called you my roommate? She asked, her voice cracking. No, I replied, the first words I'd spoken to her since leaving. It was because when I objected, you said I was lucky you kept me around at all. I didn't lean it. I was stressed about work and showing off for the married guy you've been sleeping with, she flinched. Graham too. Could you? Everyone's told me. Vanessa, apparently I was the only one who didn't know. I made a mistake, she whispered. Several mistakes were destroying my career and my financial security. That's disproportionate. And there it was. The moment I realized I might have gone too far. Not because she didn't deserve consequences, but because I never intended to be the kind of person who engineered someone else's destruction. My righteous anger had curdled into something uglier. You're right, I admitted. Some of what happened I didn't anticipate how it would cascade. Then help me fix it, she pleaded. Talk to HR. Tell them you made it up. I never talked to your HR department, I said truthfully. That was all internal. And no, I won't lie to protect you. She stared at me, mascara streaking down her cheeks. I love you, you know. It wasn't all fake. I closed my trunk. Funny thing about love, it requires respect, which apparently, even as your roommate, I didn't earn. I got in my car and drove away, watching her shrinking figure. As I looked back in my rearview mirror, Chicago awaited behind me. A fresh job, fresh start. It's been half a year already. My career at the larger firm has skyrocketed. It turns out my abilities were in demand beyond what I had initially thought. I created new connections, casually dated, and established a life I take pride in. Vanessa occasionally reaches out. According to mutual friends, she has been reinstated at work, but with a demotion. Charles has moved to a different department. She now resides in a smaller apartment in a less desirable area. The designer clothing has been sold on consignment websites. At times, I ponder if I pushed too far. If fueled by betrayal and embarrassment, I transformed into something I never aspired to be, vengeful, scheming, distant. Then again, I recall her expression as she disregarded our 5 years together, the casual cruelty of someone who believed I should be grateful just to be permitted to stay. The reality likely lies somewhere in the middle. I didn't simply leave. I dismantled the life she had constructed upon the basis of our relationship. Was it justified? It may not have been what she deserved, but I am still uncertain. What I am certain of is that I will never be anyone's roommate again. The lesson I learned from that $3,000 suit is that sometimes the cost of self-respect is high, but it is worth every penny. Update. It's been overwhelming to see the response to this overnight. Addressing some recurring questions. Firstly, yes, I do regret how things unfolded. My intention was to part ways with dignity, not to bring harm to her life. Some consequences were a natural outcome of our separation, while others stemmed from her actions being revealed. Secondly, I did not directly report her to HR. I discussed the situation with my own HR department when rejecting their counteroffer, and separately informed my cousin about it. The company's investigation was spurred by internal rumors, not by my formal complaint. Thirdly, for those suggesting I should have communicated with her, I did attempt to do so. However, her response was dismissive, stating that I should consider myself lucky she let me stay. This effectively closed the door on further dialogue. Lastly, some have asked if I have found someone new. I have been dating, but I am taking my time. The king takes things slowly, as trust doesn't come easy after something like this. 3 months later, life in Chicago continues to improve for me. The firm promoted me for bringing in 2 major clients. I have started seeing someone, the corporate attorney who confidently introduces me as her boyfriend. Vanessa's life has somewhat stabilized. I heard through mutual friends that she's been seeing a therapist and working on personal growth. She sent me a lengthy email apologizing without making excuses. I appreciated her gesture, but chose not to respond. Some chapters are best left closed. The cabin has finally been sold after months on the market. My lawyer handled everything, dividing the proceeds according to our original investment. It was less than what we had hoped for, but fair. Looking back, I now realize that we both caused damage. She with her betrayal, and me with my response. The difference is, I can acknowledge my part in it. That, I suppose, is a sign of growth. For those who may be wondering if revenge brings satisfaction, not really. It feels empty once the initial gratification fades. It is empowering to realize that you are capable of rebuilding, progressing, and understanding that your self-worth does not rely on validation from others.